Okay, so this year, this is the 33rd class in which we tried to go through this book. I was privileged to do this book in 1988, 1989, 1990. Rabbi Kaplan passed away in 1983, and it came to me in 87, 88. This picture, even though it's not too obvious, is a picture of looking up from a forest up to the sky, right? So there's the idea of an eye. It's an E-I-E. It's an eye. Even though it's looking outwards, it's looking inwards. And it's a terrible cover, but at least the symbolism is okay. And it's pink. And that's what they did to it. It was an amazing experience to do this book. I had to read everything. I had the transcripts, and I had to read everything that Rabbi Kaplan wrote. So I had around 30 books that he wrote in an 11-year period. I had the manuscript of what would be in after I did Interspace, what would be Sefer Yetzirah, his translation and commentary on the Sefer Yetzirah, which I had the manuscript, had other manuscripts. It was an amazing process. I dreamt about him while I was doing it. I knew him in the States. I had learned with him. My wife had learned with him. He came to our wedding before we left for Israel. He spoke at our Sheva Brachot. He spoke at our Sheva Brachot about what's called the Merkava Yecheskel HaNavi, of the vision of the chariot of Ezekiel, and for 25 minutes he spoke about stuff that you don't usually hear at a Sheva Brachot. It was so special. We taped it, and then years later, independently and without any seeming normal connection, I was offered these transcripts of this book and of these classes, and asked to make a book of it. So I have tremendous love and tremendous appreciation for who Rav Aryeh Kaplan was, and maybe a lot of people do also. And they should. He really opened up a lot of doors for a lot of us. We've started the beginning of the book last Elul, and right after Rosh Hashanah we went really into it. This is for anybody who doesn't have pages yet. That's basically all I have. So if you don't have one of your own, share. We went through, as I basically say here on the first page of today's set. Rabbi Kaplan of blessed memory took on a monumental task when he began to teach the classes that eventually end up becoming the book Inner Space. This is apparent from the start, but it becomes super apparent by chapter 10. And then I go through a little bit of like a synopsis of what the book is about, and I get to chapter 10. After he sets up that there's what he calls the Kabbalistic universe, that there are universes, right? And that we're a little universe within much, much larger universes. I'll stop for a second. Hi. Try and sit on this side. Come, there's more room here. So this is the 33rd class of this series. It's the last one until we start again in Elul. 33 is Gal, Gimel Lamed, Lamed Gimel. One of the verses that we say before we learn Torah is Gal enai va'abita niflaot mitoratecha. Hashem, open up my eyes. It's literally reveal my eyes, Gal enai, but really it's uncover what's stopping me from seeing your Torah. Gal enai va'abita, and I will see, I will look deeply into niflaot toratecha, the wonders of your Torah. The wonders are there. The wonders of life, the wonders of existence are there. So what's stopping us from seeing them? Something that each one of us has to take away. We have to ask, please remove the blinders from my eyes so that I can see how incredible this life is. I stop taking things for granted. You know, the old example of somebody who lived in the forest their whole life, or the jungle, and came in and saw the buildings and the skyscrapers and the streets paved and everything, and was in wonder, like, wow, how do human beings do this? And bridges and everything. So we should look at the world in the same way. Right? Every day we wake up new. Why should we take it for granted? Our bodies, our consciousness, our emotions. It's all a gift. It's all to be looked into, to contemplate, not to take for granted. The way that we teach inner meditation is to go through our own breathing process, through our own ability to sound, through our own ability to make motions with our bodies, and then more subtler and subtler motions with our minds, and to be aware of how movement takes place and how to move our consciousness. A lot of Kabbalistic meditation is how to move our consciousness. Very simply, but it gets taking used to, is to elevate my consciousness, to elevate my soul, my nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, yechida, to a very high place. Even though I've never been there in this lifetime, I'm lifting my soul up to a very high place. I'm giving my soul to God. And then as a result of that, we say that incredible stuff comes down through all the universes, the entire system, with blessing and light. And it comes down to all of us and to each one of us, and especially to the one who said or did the action that was motivating this incredible release of energy from above. So we, even though the world is big and the earth is very small and we're a tiny speck on the earth, and what are we? And yet Torah teaches us that we have ramifications, that there are incredible movements that can come about as a result of little movements down, little important movements of consciousness in us, that we can have an incredible relationship with the universe and with He who is the one who is the source of the universe. The title of these pages, if you don't have one, share with your friend, is Overall Partsufic Structure of Inner Space. We introduced the word last week, partsufic. First of all, partsuf, and then to think partsufically, to think in partsuf. What is that? So what I wanted to share with you here is show you what you have, and that when you take this home, these pages home, that they'll be useful to you. So again, the first page is an overview of the first part of inner space. The second part is on meditation and prophecy. The first part is introduction to Kabbalah. So we almost got to the end of the first part. Fine, whatever. Very important stuff about how these ideas can clarify they're not cubby holes they're powerful places in your mind to create a structure in your mind, basically to internalize the map of the universes. A lot of Kabbalistic learning, though it seems technical, basically it's a download of the map of the universe. Just like when you can drive a car in the city you grew up in, or you know the streets more or less. So I grew up in Los Angeles, and I can drive in New York also, some places not. And in other cities, a little bit. But in Yerushalayim, I was here 37 years before I got a car. I could drive, I was driving, I would rent a car, I'd borrow a car. But then when I really had to have a car and I had to get around, I had to internalize the map. Does that make sense? Literally, for me to get from where I was, where I lived outside of Yerushalayim, to get to Talpiot, where my mechanic works, it's a very complicated thing. And so in order to get there, the truth is you have to see where you're going and make a map, at least a tentative map in your mind of how you're going to get there. And that's an internalization, a downloading process. So that in a sense, it's a metaphor for downloading Atzilut, Bria, Yetzir, and Asiya, and even more than Atzilut, even more, higher and higher, and allowing myself to know that if I say the word Atzilut, that there's a reality to that within my being. So Kabbalistic teachings or Kabbalah in general is never going to be an intellectual academic exercise. It's a meditative system where you try and internalize the sphirot, the worlds, the levels of the soul, and understand that you are made from these things, right? And that the ideas that you're reading in the books, basically when they're internalized, the whole new level opens up because it's a living world, a world of godliness. And that the system that they're giving over of Atzilut and Bria, Yetzir Asiya, or Keter and Chochmah and Bina are words that are prophetically given to us and that have beautiful resonance. And that the prayers that we say also, and that the ability to speak them and to sing them, to think them and to breathe them. These are profound and yet very simple. When it comes down to it, I want to connect with the universe and the source of the universe in a very deep way. This is what Rabbi Kaplan is teaching here in this book. So one of the main ideas is called Partzuf. So we introduced it a few weeks ago at the bottom of page 1. You see here, it says in chapter 10. He thus introduces the subject of the shattering of the vessels. In other words, after having described the workings of what he calls the Kabbalistic universe as it exists now, in its rectified state, and this is relative to the process with which God brought the world into creation, at which point there was, or in the process of which there was a so-called shattering. So the rectification process that took place afterwards, we're in a rectified world. But really, it's really just archetypal. The world that we're in now is still a world of unrectified, and the Messianic age is the rectification. It's all relative to where you're holding. At any rate, that was called Tikkun Maaseh Bereshit, and it was the rectification that followed after the shattering. So there he introduces us to the Ari's teachings regarding 2 earlier stages in the creation process that preceded our world. So Kabbalah takes you back to previous epochs, right, that we wouldn't be able to know about on our own. But the tracism, the residue of those previous epochs are active in our world. And so in order to really understand our world, we have to have access to a system that takes us above this world. An epoch, a long period of time. And
EPOCH?
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know it wasn't. I didn't know it. Well,
An epic, EPIC.
no, OCH. It's an epoch is a long period of time, also called an age. An age, AGE. Anytime you have to ask a question like that, for sure, and any questions. So inside again, 4th line of the paragraph that we're in. Based on the story of Yaakov with Lavan's sheep, where Yaakov had a dream, and he saw 3 types of sheep. And the words that are used for those 3 types of sheep are Nikudim, spotted sheep, first banded sheep. Akudim is banded with a band around their ankles. That's at least how it's described, a band. Then there's spotted, which is Nikudim. So Akudim means banded, like in the Akedat Yitzhak, the binding of Yitzhak. Nikudim is points, is spots. And Brudim is splashes, is longer, like brush strokes. And so the Kabbalah, the oral tradition of the Zohar, the deep level that's metaphysical, behind the physical level of the Torah, opens this up, and then the Ari in Etz Chaim opens this up as these 3 words become not descriptions of sheep any longer. They are descriptions of the process with which the Ein Sof brought the universe into existence. Interesting. Like, whoa, like how do you get from one to the other? So based on the story of Yaakov with Lavan's sheep, these 2 stages are called Akudim, the world of bounded lights, no longer binding, no longer like a ring around the leg of a sheep or a goat, but the world of bounded lights. And then the second one is Nikudim, the world of the dots, or the world of separate entities, The idea being, as we'll see in a second, that the light is so strong in the beginning stages, there's no possibility of independent existence. We're there. You and I and all of us are there in the Ein Sof. And that's a very interesting thing that you might say, well, I never heard such a thing, but everything existed in the Ein Sof in a state of nothingness, in a state of no thingness, basically. But it existed. It's called Hayesh Hu Ba'ain Be'inyan Ain. That all that exists was in the no thing, in a state of no thing. This is from 750 years ago, a great master, the teacher of the Ramban, Hayesh Hu Ba'ain Be'inyan Ain. Like a Zen koan, right? That which is was in the no thing, in a state of no thing. And then it became that the Simsum was Hashem pulled his light back and revealed that was that which was there, that had always been there. And then it comes down as he pulls back more of his light at each stage in order to create the possibility of a world where there can be independent existences. So the Kabbalah looks at everything from the top and shows how in stages, and it could have been one fiat, one action, but Hashem does things in a way that we can work our way back. If it would have been just one action without any rhyme or reason, then there would be no way for us to ever know where we came from and what we're doing here. But everything's in stages. And therefore we can have a ladder that came down, we can have that ladder to climb back up. Stage one is an incredible state, is a state of incredible oneness, which is called 10 lights in one vessel. Whereas stage two, Nikudim, involves the forceful breakdown of that oneness, a cosmic shattering that creates the possibility of separation, differentiation, and individuation. And it wasn't a mistake, it was purposeful, it was not a mistake. It was part of the bringing into existence of a world where you and I could exist. These two stages are followed by stage three, Berudim, which we said before means large brush strokes, or right, something that's not the same as the first two stages, not in terms of sheep and not in terms of the Sfirot. And the more familiar name is Atzilut. And this is the stage of rectification, the universe of the rectified Partzufim. So the word we're using now, we're going to get to today of what that is. So again, Kaplan is taking our hand and gently leading us on a guided tour back into time, back before and above time as we know it and experience it, to two stages in the early universe that prepared and eventually led the way to our present universe. So we thus have a progression from the world of bounded lights, from undifferentiated unity, to the next stage is Nikudim, the world of dots or the world of separate entities, and then Berudim, to reconstituted world of Atzilut, the whole that gives importance to each of its parts, but which is infinitely greater than the sum total of its parts. So now what we do is we go into a familiar idea that this is not so foreign as we might have thought. This is a Kabbalistic way of presenting something that's actually part and parcel of our lives. So that's what the next page is about. In the teachings of the Ari, these three stages are the basic paradigm of creation. The same dynamic is beautifully embodied in the way we blow the shofar in Rosh Hashanah. Three types of calls must be made with the shofar in order to fulfill the commandment. The first is tekiah, one long unbroken blast. The second is shvarim, three medium blasts, each lasting 2 or 3 seconds, representing a type of crying. Trua, a minimum of 9 short staccato blasts, representing another type of crying or sobbing. And the final blast is again tekiah, one long unbroken blast. So the unbroken blasts, the beginning and the end, are the Ein Sof before and the Ein Sof afterward. In the middle is a world of the possibility of pain, of everything that goes along with that, but of also growth, of also beingness within a world of like a school of hard knocks. Right? So the Ein Sof cushions us on both sides with love, with mercy, with compassion, with awesome. The context within which our little world exists is a world of love. This world is a world of judgment. right? It's a smaller and more limited, constricted world of law and order. That's why the first chapter of Bereshit is the name Elohim, right? The name of Hashem, that's judgment, law, order, boundary, definition, right? And only the name Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, comes in the fourth verse of the second chapter, where it says, Ele toldot hashamayim va'aretz b'yom biro Adonai Elohim eretz hashamayim. Something like that. On the day that Hashem Elohim created earth and heaven. And even the name Yud Kei Vav Kei that occurs here is really within the context of Elohim. The full revelation of Yud Kei Vav Kei, which represents Hashem's love, His mercy, will be in Olam Haba. But for us to access it even now is so important. And to break through the difficulties and to know that behind everything that's happening in our individual lives, in our communal lives, in our national lives, in our all of history, is one unfolding of a divine plan. So the Kabbalah is very, very strong that our consciousness, like Isaiah, like Jeremiah, like Yehezkel, Ezekiel, like Elisha, Elijah, Eliyahu Navi, they attained levels of understanding. And later on, the Ari, the Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the masters of Kabbalah, Rabbi Akiva, these were men who attained a level of interdimensionality. They broke through the matrix. They were able to see the world from above. They were given awesome insight. Later, the Ramchal, the Ben Ish Chai, the Leshem, Rabbi Nachman Mibreslev, all the names are just more and more as a whole star-filled sky of awesome masters and women who all together constitute one unbroken tradition of consciousness, right? But it's hidden from our generation. So these teachings are in order for us to get in contact with where we came from, with the souls with whom we are connected. So you'll see teachings of soul about who we are and where we came from and what we can attain as a result of this knowledge. It's knowledge first because I need to know about it, right? But it's not just intellectual knowledge, because once I internalize it, I know that I can connect with the Ari when I read his words. I can connect with Rabbi Shimon when I can read his words. And I can connect with the Baal Shem Tov when I read his words. And not only read his words, but I can say, oh my goodness, I really feel something about these teachings. This is almost like, this is what I was waiting for. You come across moments like that. I hope you've had them, right? This is they're called Dayenu moments. Wow, if I had only been born to hear this, to know this, to learn this, to live this moment, it would have been enough, because this is a moment that I was waiting for. Anybody ever have any of those? We should have more and more, and should be able to create them and generate them and live them.
That's a question.
Yes.
You said something about our generation is not revealed all the tzaddikim throughout the history, and you said this generation is.
We're closed off. We're closed off. Most of us don't even know about such things. And then even if we know about them, most people will tell you there's no way to do any of these things anymore. Typical orthodoxy is basically we believe that the Torah was from God. We believe that Moshe had Nevuah, prophecy, but that's not possible for us anymore. So the answer to that is, don't be so quick, Rabbi. Don't close up what is just now opening. We want it to open even more. So if we work on ourselves and we can open channels that have been closed, almost like one of my deepest connections with Rabbi Nachman Bullman, he said it's like a geyser or a pressure cooker. It's down there and it's waiting, and the second that it opens up, it's going to blow sky high. Prophecy is going to be the norm, right? But it was there the whole time. It was just being stopped up. So this is the situation that we're in now, is that we're just about to have these well springs open. And really on a very personal level, the connection of each one of us to higher souls, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Moshe, David, Yosef, these are real living beings through whom we are connected to the Creator. So when we read of them, learn of them, and then internalize that we are actually connected and certainly love them and want to meet them. because we're sparks of their souls. So I'm going off the page, but that's what happens. That's maybe the most important thing is the soul connection. And then we want to have ideas which will strengthen that connection and see that it's really part and parcel of the Torah, that we were part of an undifferentiated unity and that we're going towards unity. But this time it'll be different because stage 2 in between is the work that we've done. At any point you start in your life, then you can see that you've been doing the work anyway, but now you want to go to the next stage of your work. That's what coming to Yerushalayim is about. That's what any stage is a new stage. And in the stage of the building of the being of who we are, right? In our relationships with others, in our meeting others whom we never met before, but we've met in previous lifetimes, and it was meant that we would meet now. And so take advantage of realizing, wow, we're all connected. Let me start to meet all the souls that I've been connected with for eternity. That's a request you can actually make, right? Back in 1972, when I first started, I met some people, and I said, I just had gotten out of college. I said, I think I'm starting to meet people who I'm going to know in eternity. It was so good. And I know them to this day. And I know others too. And I just feel that that's what eternity is becoming a reality as we get closer to the divine, as we get closer to the great Shabbos, to the time that things really will open up, even though there's a tremendous constriction now on the planet. But for those of us who want to do the inner work, there's an opening.
Does that apply to this time of year also, even though there's a tremendous Hester Panim beneath that is a tremendous opportunity?
Beneath the Hester Panim of these 3 weeks is a greater opportunity than ever before. And then Elul comes, and it's even more. And then Rosh Hashanah, and even more. These are gifts. Remember when the 9/11 happened? It happened just before Rosh Hashanah.
Yeah.
So the whole world doesn't know basically what to do with 9/11, right? But we, all of a sudden, it's the end of Elul, and we go into Rosh Hashanah. It was like a perfect message. I'm telling you what to do with 9/11. You come to me, Hashem says. You go inside with me. I'll tell you what life is about. On the outside, in the newspapers and the government, all the governments of the world, and what's going on, and all the confusion, come to me. Right? So this is the time when things are going on all around us. The incredible insanity, and you never sent me an email, but her husband, what's his name, Raphael Shore, has made how many movies? Incredible movies of what's going on, uranium, and what's going on. Unbelievable. So knowing that, I would have a thing in shul, every shul, like a thing going by of what's going on in the world, so that people would be connected to reality of why we're davening. Like, what is going on here? This is absolutely mad.
Today was crazy. With Iran, it's crazy.
Right.
They just made a deal.
Yeah.
They just capitulated. It's astounding.
Yeah.
On the level of Chamberlain and Hitler.
Right. So whatever Kabbalah was ever supposed to be, Chassidut, the deeper teachings of the Torah, it was supposed to give us a way of connecting to the deep inner, Atzilutic level, the oceanic level of our being. That's part of our being. That's part and parcel. It's our birthright. Connect to that whenever we can, and then come back out into the world. And when we do that, then we know where we are. We know who's in charge. Then a verse in Psalms, or a verse in Isaiah, or a verse in Daniel is a powerful thing. It's a meditation. It's something we can work with, because we know that this is what's real, and that the world that we're living in here, the external world, is in order for us to bring that consciousness out into the external world. Okay, back onto the page, on page 2, a little bit more. At the second paragraph, based on the Zohar, the Ari states that the 3 types of calls also parallel the 3 Avot, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Avraham, the embodiment, attribute of Hesed, of unconditional loving kindness, parallels the initial single, unbroken Tekiah. Yitzchak, embodiment of the attribute of Din, of divine justice and punishment, of accountability, of consequences, of measure for measure. There's different action, reaction. There's different words for it, and each one helps a little bit. Din is that there's a reaction to every action, right? That's Yitzhak. That parallels the two types of crying, the Shvarim and the Teruah. And Yaakov, the embodiment of Rachamim, of divine mercy, the perfect blend of love and judgment, parallels the final Tekiah. The same dynamic is alluded to in the hermeneutic rule, Klal upratu klal, eata dan ela ke'ena prat. So in Hebrew, it means klal is a whole, a universal whole, unbroken. Prat is the possibility of individual details. Klal is the return to the whole, but at a higher level, where every detail of stage 2 is lifted up to become part of the whole. Whereas there weren't details in stage 1. There was no possibility of details of you and me. This is an important sentence that I just said, but if it's not getting over to you, if it doesn't make sense, so tell me. In the undifferentiated unity, we all exist, but we don't have any consciousness. Then the Ein Sof pulls its light back to give us and to make a world. But that's like being born from mommy. It's like, hey, I need to be one with my mommy. Where's my mommy? And stage 3 is coming back, but now coming back into full, conscious, intimate relationship with the source. Not as a child, but as an adult. Of course, we'll always be Hashem's children, but he wants us to grow. He wants us to grow into maturity. So as we said in past, it's dependency, independence, and what's the third stage? Interdependence. So once you get the vocabulary and you can say it in your own words, so you're on the way, then you see, oh my goodness, what the Kabbalah is talking about is basics of existence, and it's not something other than what I know in my own existence. So according to this rule, if a verse is written in such a way that a klal, a generic, all-embracing term, is followed by a prat, a specific detail or details, but then followed by a second mention of the same klal, the rule is that you judge only by virtue of the detail. Prat means that the application of the klal is now judged solely in terms of the shared qualities that are inherent in the details. The simple thing is don't steal anything, and that includes donkeys, sheep, sweaters, and carpets. And that means everything. It's crazy, a foolish example, but everything, the beginning and end. And then there's donkeys and sheep and sweaters and carpets. They have qualities. Now the quality now of these two are living beings, and the last two are not. So we now go into their abstract qualities, and we say that the klal now is going to be defined by what the qualities of these details are. These details become no longer details. They're lifted up to a level called principles. When the detail, which is just a little thing, becomes a principle, now it determines how I'm going to go into the next stage, back into the higher unity. In spiritual terms, this tells us that our return to the great klal at the end will be qualitatively different from our inclusion in undifferentiated oneness that preceded all separate existence. I'm very repetitive, right? You can see that we've been saying this the whole time. In the original primeval klal, the Avram stage, individuality was subsumed and existed only in potential. In the final klal, the Yaakov stage, the level of individuality that was attained during the period of Prat will be maintained and even enhanced. So we're always going through this on the big scale, and also within our lives. We have moments of oneness, we lose it, it gets broken, it gets taken away from us, and then we get it back, right? We may not always get it back the way we want it, but we get back moments when, oh my goodness, thank you so much. I know I had to go through that, but while I was going through it, it wasn't what I wanted to go through, right? But now I can see that what I got from it is so important. That's called coming back to the klal at a higher level. Hi, Sarah. Yeah. Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad is the same. Right. Hashem is klal. Eloheinu is prat. Hashem Echad is return to the klal at a higher level. Totally. Yeah. Yeah. The idea of two opposing qualities balanced by a third intermediate or harmonizing quality is found in many places. Indeed, the reason most people don't notice this dynamic is because it's so all over the place, so ubiquitous. For instance, in Pirkei Avot, the world stands on three things: on acts of kindness, that's Abraham; on self-sacrifice, that's Yitzhak; and on Torah, that's Yaakov. So now we're going to go ahead. Please, I make it hard for you if I go too fast and that not enough time to ask or formulate your questions. So I will slow down and give you time to think. But what's going on here? Our souls come from oneness. They come into a world of experience which breaks our oneness down, and we forget who we are as children already, and then we grow up, and then we start to get inklings and intimations of something higher, but we feel very far away from it, and it's very hard to live it as a whole. We feel that our life is more broken than whole, but then don't give up. We build, we build, we build. You know, as you mentioned 2 weeks ago, a while, atoms forming into larger structures of molecules, and molecules forming together to form cells. So in the cell is a complex construct. It's a very much higher level of evolution, but it's made up of atoms, and the atoms are made up of whatever it's made up. But you see that once the breakdown process gets to its maximum breakdown, maximum dispersion of sparks, then the whole of history is the coming back into conglomerations that try and express oneness within a world of brokenness. Skip to page 4. The Torah is a holistic system given to mankind via the Jewish people. It's largely misunderstood to this day, not only by the majority of mankind, but by the Jewish people itself. One reason for this is its multi-layered structure. The stories and mitzvot, and certainly its essential teachings have many levels of meaning. Thankfully, it's a unified system, but where each of its parts is a holographic miniature of the entire whole, the fact that each part reflects the whole through its particular lens, and from its particular vantage point leaves room for specific uniqueness, and at the same time ensures unity. Indeed, precisely because of its parts maintain their uniqueness at the same time that they merge into one great whole, the Torah system is a perfect embodiment of the idea of the whole that's greater than the sum of its parts. A minyan is 10 people, but not just 10 individuals, because it becomes geometric, that now a minyan can do things that 10 individuals can't do. There's a Mishnah that says that when you say, when you have 10 people, you move from in a zimun, at a meal, you move from Baruch she'achalnu mishalo, you move to Baruch Elokeinu she'achalnu mishalo. You add God's name. From 10 to 99, it stays that way. And from 100 people, you say Baruch Hashem Eloheinu. And then from then till 999, it's the same. Then from 1,000, it becomes Baruch Hashem Elokeinu Yoshev HaKruvim. He who sits, who dwells between the Kruvim. And it just adds more. The more you're adding, the greater the quantitative and qualitative level of the kli, of the vessel, so the more godliness that's revealed. It's a Mishnah and Brachot. Please go with me. A master of Torah is defined as one who knows Kol HaTorah Kula, the entirety of the entire Torah. It's purposely redundant. The entirety of the entire Torah. The phrase is purposely redundant. A master sage knows not only billions of details, but their interconnectedness, in Hebrew, hit kashrut, not the same, it's not spelled the same as kashrut of food, but it sounds the same. And their inter-inclusiveness, hit kaladut. In other words, the only reason he knows the parts so well is because he knows the whole that is greater than the sum of its parts. Without knowing the whole, one cannot properly know the parts. So all the Jewish learning that everybody does is piecemeal, right? And feeling that I'm bothered by this, and I can't understand. I have to go to Rashi, I have to go to Ibn Ezra, I have to go to the Ramban, I have to go to the Or HaChaim, I have to go, and I'm still feeling like there's something more here. I just can't get it, right? That's part and parcel of Torah learning, especially as the Torah is ani b'makom echad ve'ashir b'makom acher. The Torah is poor in one place on purpose, but rich in another place, but nobody tells you where the other place is. It's a fragmented Torah. When Moshe broke the tablets on Sinai, he did an archetypal act. He broke the tablets into many pieces, which is what God did when he shattered the vessels, which is what the Talmud does. It shatters the Torah wisdom, and it spreads it all over the place. It's like very frustrating. Why did they do this? Because they wanted us to put it together. It's an interactive system. When you begin to put it together, it starts to come together inside of you. There's no other way to get it inside of you but by interacting, by engaging with it. Okay, in his introduction to Derech Hashem, Ramchal expressed it this way. When one knows the number of things and understands how they are categorized and systematically interrelated, he has a great advantage over one who has the same knowledge without such distinction. It's very much like the difference between looking at a well-arranged garden planted in rows and patterns and seeing a wild thicket or a forest growing in confusion. And he has a very beautiful thing here. You can read it yourselves. Go to the next page. Because I want to be able to talk to you about, about the ideas. So going to the ideas a little bit quickly, but the papers are yours. And the idea is to come off the page. I know I'm reading quite a bit. I mean, you don't usually have a teacher read a text, but I want there to be a point of communication here, of connection between us, that we actually see what we're talking about. And then we can start to lift it off the page. It's what he says here, this quote from Ramchal is so beautiful. It really is pure Kabbalah, but put in terms of normal human discourse. So just at the top of page 5, by its very nature, every general category, which in Kabbalah is called a partsufic thinking, general wholes, right? Every general category includes many details. When a person grasps a single general concept, he automatically grasps a large number of particular cases, although he may not be sufficiently aware of them to recognize them, of the sphirot within the partsuf. He doesn't know exactly how they interact with each other, but he knows that he's just gotten a big idea given to him, and as a result, now he can go into it, and it becomes a world in which one can go into each superstructure. And then you come out of the superstructure. Now that superstructure becomes part of the totality of the library of your knowledge, and you can access it, and it goes back into the library. It's a cloud. It's a world in itself, and yet it's a detail within a greater library. And you can pull books off your library shelf and talk them and relate to them to others and to share them, and then you become more alive with them. So I'm just giving you over that the part and parcel of the system of how the words of Kabbalah, the system itself, is a real description of the human psychology as well as any cosmic things that it's talking about. Third line, although he may not be sufficiently aware of them to recognize them as elements of the general concept, he has the ability to do so when confronted by them. Once he is aware of the general principle, he will not be at a loss to recognize the details that cannot exist without it. The details can't exist without the general principle as their context. This is what the sages meant when they taught us words of the Torah should always be in your hands as general principles, klalim, rather than as mere isolated details, pratim. And the word klal comes into English as collective, and prat comes into English as particular. Just giving you touch points. I mean, don't get mad at me. Okay, a little bit more until we get to the footnote at the bottom, and then I will release you all. The footnote at the bottom is not just the Ramchal did this. It's footnote number 3. Ramchal is not the only one who took this idea seriously of parts and larger principles. He is considered one of the 4 greatest expositors of the Torah of the Ari. So besides the Ramchal, the others are the Baal Shem Tov, the Rashash, Rav Sar Shalom Sharabi. We mentioned them last week. We drew a little thing of the Sfirot. And the Gra, Eliyahu ben Shlomo, Zalman, the Gaon of Vilna. Like the 4 tributaries that flowed forth from Eden's river, these 4 masters and the schools of thought that they founded are together considered the main 4 tributaries that flow from the Ari, whose teachings flow from all the great masters who preceded him. Rashash embodies the quantum physics aspect of the Ari's teachings. Ramchal and Gra embody the meta-historical aspect, and the Baal Shem Tov embodies the soul aspect. Certainly all these aspects were and are included in the original teachings of the Ari, which themselves root up and back to the supernal Torah that precedes creation, time, space, and consciousness. Nevertheless, each master embodies and emphasizes the aspect that he was drawn to develop in his unique way. In addition, each one also includes all the others as well from his particular perspective. He does have a perfect combination of unity in diversity and diversity in unity. The specific aspects of the Ari's teachings that these 5 masters embody, that is the Ari plus the 4, can be defined in terms of the Sfirot. Ari is Keter, Rashash is Chochma, Ramchal is Bina, Gra is Tiferet, Baal Shem Tov is Malchut. And finally, the same relationships hold in terms of the 5 levels of Torah exegesis. Ari is Razin de Razin, the mysteries of the mysteries. The Rashash is the simple, the Pshat. The Ramchal is the Remez, the illusion, the hint. The Gra is the allegory, the metaphor. The Baal Shem Tov is the soul, is the mystery. Again, the teachings of each include aspects of all the others, embodying the idea of transcendent unity, manifesting through diversity in that. More splintered than ever before in every area of life, our generation needs to recognize and embrace this unity and diversity. So, chapter 11 of Inner Space is about Partsuf, but I wanted to give you some kind of, touchstone. Like, what is this about? That the names of God, the verses in the Torah, they're complete structures, and yet they're all pieces within even a greater structure. So, growing your ability to keep your even keel, so to speak, when you hear of greater structures, to expand your boundaries, right, is the experiential part of the Kabbalah. To really kind of feel yourself as part of something great. To go deep inside of yourself, to be able to be quiet. To love the spaces between the words, to love moments of quiet, to love moments in eternity. When you know that you're going beyond what your mind can understand because you're going into the great whole. That's why we cover our eyes and we close our eyes and cover them when we say Shema Yisrael, because Echad is us attempting to connect to the great whole. And in a sense, it's really actually giving up my small self and jumping into and merging with the big self. I'll get it back, but I'll get it back with much more energized and powerful little self, because it's going to come back with more of the great self. in the constant move of prat into klal and klal back into prat. So let's use that as a meditation for the moment. The idea here is not to memorize, not to think that you need to know all the details. Yes, that'll come. If you want it, it'll be there. You can learn the words, you can learn the concepts. But to know that they're part of your being, and that your birthright, that this goes back to Adam and before, that this is part of the universal system, and that we're part of this incredible whole. And the knowledge has been given to us to give us a connecting link back into the system. So when you breathe, breathing in, taking air in, holding in for a minute or a few seconds, expanding your capacity, taking in more air, letting it out slowly. The part yearning for the whole. That's what this meditation is. We are female relative to Hashem. It's the female yearning for connection with the male, for heaven, for earth, yearning for its connection to heaven. Heaven is revealed within earth, but it's only potential. We need to bring it out from immanence to complete full revelation, so that earth and heaven become one complete unity. We have the ability to do that because we are the amazing beings that we are. We've been given consciousness. Hashem planted consciousness within us, and it's like a seed growing. And as it comes to its higher and higher stages of development, the world can disappear for a few moments, and we can know that we are consciousness in relation to consciousness. And then the world appears again, and with all of its troubles and with all of its impediments, and yet we know that we've had a moment in consciousness, a moment of above. So that flow, that ebb and flow, that dance called Ratzova Shov, of running and then returning, of knowing and then not knowing. But my not knowing now is qualitatively different because I've tasted something and I want it more. And the reason it's been taken away from me is so that I should know that there's much more. It's never only mine. It's not something that I can own. When a father or mother is helping a child to walk, so it's imperative that the father or the mother let go at one point so that the child will walk on his or her own. To the child, it feels that you're leaving me alone. But really, it's in order to evoke from the child his or her own potential to walk, right? To come meet your hands. So that's what the Baal Shem Tov says about us, is when we feel alone and we feel that we've been abandoned. Hashem is not abandoning us. He's just pulling back and saying, come, you can come on, get up, you can do it. And we say, we can't, we don't know how to. Pick me up again, help me again. The Ari speaks about 4 tzaddikim who have their names doubled in the Tanakh: Abraham, Abraham, Yaakov, Yaakov, Moshe, Moshe, and Shmuel, Shmuel. Hashem calls them by their name twice. The Midrash says that means that they have a portion in this world, and a portion in the world to come. And the Kabbalah says that that portion in the world to come is not like the Midrash means it, is that in the future they'll have a portion in the world to come. The world to come precedes this world. That's where the soul comes from. So when it says Abraham, Abraham, Yaakov, Yaakov, Moshe, Moshe, Shmuel, Shmuel, Yaakov, the first one is the name as it is in its heavenly root, Shoresh Neshama. And the second one is the branch that comes all the way down in a little limited way and becomes internalized within. And so the meditation on it is that when we breathe in, that we're trying to connect to the root of our being. And that's all of us. Every one of us is being called by our names twice. Is to connect to the root of our soul and to the souls with whom we are connected. And then to breathe out and to let out the air, but really come down and internalize and integrate that high light into our being. And then up and down. And then we can do up and down even when we're up. We don't have to move our body every time. It becomes an inner motion. But we're connecting up, and then we're trying to internalize. And that again is also a prayer. Please Hashem, every single one of us wants so much, whether we know it or not, to connect to our being, to our soul, to the source of our being. We need it so much, like water, like air. And even more so, the collective level of our being, why we're here, what we're supposed to do, what our potential is. Please reveal that to us. Please let us be part of something great, something immensely joyous, something that we were all deep down inside of us, we all knew it. We were all told before we were born. There's going to be a big party, a big celebration down on the planet Earth. Who wants to go down? And we all said, yes. It's going to be hard down there, they told us. But we said, we'll do it. And we came. And we're here. So connecting to that higher level of joy, of meaning, of being, of light, it's so simple and yet so profoundly important for all of us, and for us to give to our kids and our friends and our parents, and just to give that. And the more we give it, the more we get it. Okay, I'm going to start talking. Is there anything we would like to deal with?
So one of the ways I see it is that in the concept of light, there's this white light and then it's refracted and then everything's separated. And like hopefully the way that I'm saying it is that it converges and becomes white light again. But how does that happen? Because I understand that we have this Messiah, I understand that we have mitzvot, I understand that we have intentions, but is that, and obviously some people are participating in it and some people aren't, is that really just the mechanism as it is in order to converge? Or is it also when Hashem decides?
I very much, this is beautiful, wow. So the light breaks up, a white light breaks up, it refracts into all the different colors, and somehow it comes back into white light. In the middle is the world, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, right?
Right.
We're picking up those sparks by accident. We don't know what we're doing.
We don't even know what we're doing very often.
Most
Okay. But what's the, is it Hashem doing this, or what's our part in this?
And how it's all going to end? Is that sort of what you put? How's it going to come to its fruition? Is that, or is it?
I guess what's going to be the part that makes it converge again? Because we obviously have responsibilities, so I'm assuming, I'm making the assumption that chat participates in the convergence. Like, like for example, the more chesed we do, right? So the more we join together, right? But I'm just, because we're not in a position where everyone is participating in that type of convergence, then what's going to be the catalyst? Like, is it going to be from Hashem's will? Obviously, everything is.
It's great. Yeah, sure. No, you say that not everybody's participating. Everybody's participating in one way or another.
Is it in the convergence?
Not consciously.
There's
But
lots of Jews who don't know
it doesn't matter. I have so many stories of people who don't even know how good they are. So many. Most of us do not know. We cannot know. I myself, you yourself probably, we do not know who we are, what we are, how special we are. And if you start to think you're special, then it's an ego trip. But if you really just know how special it is that we are alive and the one who created us, that's a more humble way of doing it. But the point is, we are very, very powerful and special. And most of us don't know it. Whatever the case, don't look outside at how many people are not doing it. Let's look inside to do what we need to do with ourselves and with others. There's an incredible gematria. Echad. Echad is gematria 13, the same as the word ahava. Ve'afta l'recha kamocha ani Adonai is you shall love your friend as yourself. I am God. What's the gematria of that? 907. And the gematria ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha is 907. Love your friend as yourself. I am God. Meaning to say, if you love your friend as yourself, I can be God. And what will you love in your friend? The I am God. That is the same gematria as love the Lord your God. That is so beautiful. That's an eternal gematria. It's not like normal to have such a thing. And okay, the first two words of Ahavta in both of them, and that gives it away. But it's really basically purposeful and intended. And that means that we have the ability to participate in things coming back together at the higher level. As atoms come together to molecules, and molecules to cells, and cells into organs, and organs into organisms. So at a certain point, Hashem says, now I want to create a being who's going to now carry the evolutionary thrust and be part of it, but by his own or her own free will. And Yisrael is going to be the embodiment of that. Yisrael. Most people don't understand what Yisrael means, what it represents, that we're not even Yisrael yet, we're potential Yisrael, we're Yehudim right now, we're Yaakovs, we didn't get to Yisrael, we all have to, there's an incredible thing up ahead called Yisrael, where it includes all of mankind. And Yisrael is really the ultimate of Klal Uprat. It's the ultimate of individuality within the greater whole. It's uniqueness grounded in oneness. It's the perfect combination. So we have the ability to now bring evolution forward to its highest level of unity, of the great klal that everything leads to. That's the privilege that Hashem has given us, that we can participate in that. Every time we eat and say a bracha, every time we say any, all these things are not meaningless actions. Of course, a person who says a bracha, blah, 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 right? He's not busy being part of the solution. He's busy being part of the problem. But the solution is to be conscious about what was given to us to be part of the solution. As, oh my goodness, action, speech, and thought are three very important levels of active participation in fixing, in rectifying, in bringing things together. So my speech has to be a meaningful speech. And therefore, when I say the bracha, which is basically God's name, we don't even say it because it's really beyond human language, but it's so precious to us that we keep it behind a curtain. And it's there. Most people become so that they see Yud Kei Vav Ken, they say Adonai on the spot, and they don't even think of the Yud Kei. It's almost like a split in the mind. But it's there. It is the background of all creation, that name. It's the context within which our world takes place. So anyway, to answer your question and to get off my philosophical meanderings, but it's so much a part of us. And yet to know that whatever we can do is really the Creator activating and working through us, right? And that beautiful man and God, God and man equation, that God speaks through man and acts through man until man becomes aware that the very act of speaking, the very act of hearing, and the very act of breathing, and the very act of being is a godly reality. It's like more than 1 million acid trips, right? You understand that, oh my goodness, my very existence is a miracle, right? And you come down from the acid trip and you say, I want to be able to bring that into my life. That nothing is other than God. But it's just that he wants us to be individuals within that unity and to do the best we can within it. That beautiful dance of the oneness of the individual within the greater oneness of the Creator. Yeah.
Is it possible for somebody to know the meaning of Shorish Neshama and their Gilgulim?
Is it possible for somebody to know their Shorish Neshama and their Gilgulim? I imagine it's very possible. How? You go to a Moroccan rabbi, and they can tell you. I kind of stay away from them, even though they're very holy. I have nothing against Moroccans. My son-in-law's a Moroccan. My in-laws are Moroccan. Okay. My teachers were Halabi and Iraqi. My teachers were from Baghdad and from Aleppo, which was my father and mother from. And they're the kind that they would talk to me. I don't have a picture of my teacher, of Darzi. He talked to me with his eyes. I asked him questions. I said, Rabbi, it's really dangerous out there, and I don't carry a gun. Will you please give me some words that I can say? I can protect myself and my family. And he smiled. The next morning, coming out of davening at the kotel, we used to daven deep, deep, deep inside the kotel. It was the greatest experiences of my life for 10 years. So I see that from then on, he starts to smile at me in a certain way. He basically said to me, we don't do that. We don't use holy names right now. But I feel for the next few weeks, the way he looked at me gave me so much. I was so blown away that he who knows does not say. He who knows does not say. And I asked him, who am I? And I asked many people. One person, we cried together. He was like almost going to tell me. And he said, I can't tell you. I said, it's cool. We cried, it's cool. As long as I cried, we cried together. And crying is a really wonderful way to know the source of yourself. But also, you learn about Sarah and Rachel and Ray and Hannah and Chava, and you connect to them, and to Moshe, and to David, and to Yosef, and to Daniel, and to Yeshaya. That's who they are. So which particular combination we are, the Gra said that basically you're all mostly connected to Yosef and David. They're the two Mashiachs. And when Mashiach ben Yosef comes, and then Mashiach ben David, and then Moshe Rabbeinu also, because there's a verse that says, Masha hayahu sheyeh. King Solomon said, that which was is that which will be. And the initials are Ma, Mem, Shehaya, Shin, Hu, Hey. Moshe is Mem, Shin, Hey. He who was is going to be the one who will be. So it's going to be Moshe in the middle with David at his right and Yosef at his left, and Eliyahu Navi running in front of them, that's called the Messianic Quartet. And they are two cosmic forces, David and Yosef, in this world. Two powerful forces of redemption. The Yosef story and the David story. The Gra says that Esther Amalka was the Yosef of her generation. It's not a male-female thing. It's connecting to soul source. So the general stuff of it I've written about, and I've translated some really important stuff in my book, and I'll send it to you for free, an email, a PDF file. Anybody who wants, just take my email and I will send you. And in the back of all my books is a list of everything and a little thing of each one, what each one is about. This is what it's about. It's the last class I'm giving for this year in this room, this incredible room. Please, Hashem, bless this place. And that anything that I've written is for sure, if anybody wants it, it's yours. I write a lot. And I try and write from my soul, even though I don't know who he or she is. But it's a channeling. And it's like, I'll stop. But so I don't know myself, and therefore I can't tell you. But I know that you have that, and I have that, and we all have that. And it says in the Zohar, in one of my books I bring from the Zohar and from the Ari, that that they didn't just send us down here as sparks of their souls and just forget about us. They are like the parents, and they care for us. It's not revealed. There's one-way mirrors. They can see us, we can't see them, but they care for us. They will not leave us alone. And the mission that they sent us here for will be helped to do it, collectively and individually. There's a powerful energy coming down now. And now that the meditations to do are the request and the asking to be connected to our higher souls and to be able to fulfill our mission here in this world at this time, whoever they are.
What is it that you said you wrote that you sent it to us? You
I will.
started saying something.
Yeah, so there's the Well of Living Waters, there's Soul Roots, there's my book dedicated to Mashiach ben Yosef, Mashiach ben David, and those are the three, what I call meta-historical, cosmological teachings. And then there's the personal stuff I've written about meditation and prayer. And I believe that the two streams in my life is the meditative and the big picture, and that they feed into each other, and that's why they came through me like that. So we have to sing a song. Anybody want to suggest one? Anybody want to share anything else?
Can I ask a question?
Please.
Yeah. I'm just a bit confused here. It says here that, for example, with the four worlds, I knew it was of my belief that Absolute was like the highest. And then you said, according to the book, there's like stage 1 is Akudim and stage 2 is Nekudim. So, and they go on top of Absolute, and then number 3 is Absolute.
Well, the truth is that Adam Kadmon is a concept that's important. That's chapter 12 of Inner Space, which we didn't get to. And then there's the Kavet Tzimtzum. There's the original Tzimtzum, which is chapter 13. So he goes through actually from the Sfirot and the worlds, and then through how the Sfirot became as they are now, which is part of the theme, and where that comes from, which is the single unified plan of history, which we call Adam Kadmon. It's not a man.
It's like an archetype.
It's not just an archetype either. It takes to give a good definition. We go to the Ramchal, and he has Klach Pitri Chochma. He has here his book, The End of Dat Tvunot. There, I hesitate to say anything because it's
A whole chapter.
yeah, it's a chapter, and it's. But so Adam Kadmon, is basically the level of Keter, of the divine plan in all of its infinite possibilities. And Atzilut starts at the language that's used in Kabbalah, we did it last week, is at the belly button of Adam Kadmon. And Bria starts at the belly button of Atzilut, and Yetzirah starts at the belly button of Yetzirah, and Asiya starts at the belly button of Yetzirah, whatever. It's always that the lower level is going to be much, much more limited relative to the level above it. And the level above it is always going to be called infinite relative to the levels below it. There's well, the Akudim came forth from the Akudim come forth from only from the mouth of Adam Kadmon. From the ears comes forth stuff that's even higher. It's lights. It's anthropomorphic symbolism, and yet it's nothing to do with human beings up there. But the language that's used is very physical. This is just one way of saying that the world that we live in is a little tiny bubble within much, much greater contexts. This one here is that the higher worlds go and become the internal fill within all the way down to the bottom, but they become covered over more and more as you get down towards physicality. And all we see is from the outside. But we have to know that on the inside is the inner filament of Ein Sof, right? And how they do that, how they teach how the Ein Sof brought the world into existence in such a way that the Ein Sof is really actually still here. It's the underlying reality that cannot be detected. It's the unchanging underlying reality behind and below and above, and that's the foundation basis upon which everything we see and hear and everything exists. So the system is a wonderful system that we may be starting an Elo men's class, separate men's class here in Yerushalayim, an inside learning where it'll be qualitatively different, and we'll invite any men who want to go to that. That doesn't mean that I don't care for women, but it's a different type of learning. This is now what we're doing here, which is for everybody to the best of my ability, and I'm very limited, and I apologize for that. But the point of maybe doing another kind of class is being spoken about now. I will ask maybe that we sing, and maybe you do Tama Nafshi. You don't have your voice? If I started, it'll be okay. Tzvi? No? Which version? Of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Zatzal. Very moving. Rav Yitzhak Atias has it on his CD. Sings it in an amazing way. All we can do is just do a little bit of it. Sama lecha nafshi. My soul thirsts for you. Kama lecha besari. Beretz yave'ayev. Beli mai. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Ken b'kodesh hazi ticha lirot uzcha uchvodecha. Ken b'kodesh hazi ticha lirot uzcha uchvodecha. Ken b'kodesh haziticha uzcha uchvodecha. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Oh oh. So when you sing a song like that, you're making a vessel to receive words, melody, emotions. Again, thank you. And these 3 weeks should be the weeks of Ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha ani Adonai. Seeing that each person we meet is infinite. Being inspired to not get caught in negative things about ourselves and other people. Be careful, lashon hara is about other people, and lashon and machshavot, right? There's negative thoughts that we carry, some of us, right? Some more, some less. Catch them in the bud. When you think a negative thought, catch it. Say hello to it. What are you doing here? I didn't invite you. I invite good thoughts, and I want to be a Shlomo, a motel for good thoughts. I want to be home. But thoughts that are negative, what do I need them for? Thoughts that I can build on. Rabbi Nachman's Torah of the good points, of the God points, that we have good points in this, and they are points of godliness, and that we want to build them and create an incredible building of goodness with ourselves and with others. There's so much more to share. Please, Hashem, give us the chance to do it. Please, everybody, sign in, and you'll get the emails for these classes when they begin again, and donate to the yeshiva, this amazing place. Come back for other classes. You know, there's a new program for smicha, a very powerful, holistic program that many people have been wanting for years, and now that it's happening, we should mamish jump at the opportunity.
Okay, I want to take a moment to thank you, Rav Sutton, and we're very, very gratified with this amazing turnout that you've had this semester. We're happy for you, we're happy for the yeshiva, and the Hashem will try to celebrate after this week. Some classes will be continuing, and if you're not on our mailing list, please make sure to sign in so that the sheet is full and the space still on the back of the sheet. Okay? And also, if you haven't had the chance to take over the class, please do so. And we're looking forward to seeing you all. Okay? And so the women, I want to tell you that tomorrow morning, the class is beginning with Tchaikovsky. By 11:15, there's a class in Hawaii with the